Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, we have holiday festival themes.
We have festival themes. Should I put one up there?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Isn't that nice? How's this one?
Oh, look, you have it exactly on your head.
I have a thing on my head. Which one do you like best?
Tree. The tree's right where Mom was.
We have little things here. Which one do you like best?
Let me see. I think snowing. So not one of those, but just have it snow. Yeah. There. And then there you go.
That's it. That's the one.
That's the one.
I don't think we need it actually, but if you want it there, we'll
just for a little bit before we start being serious.
Yeah, okay. When we get serious, we have to get rid of this stuff. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But because
Hi,
of the
everybody.
lack of real snow, this is sufficient.
Now, what's going on here? Do you see the problem here?
Because we now have this is even smaller.
But how do we turn that off?
But you can scroll down here. Yeah, and do like that.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
But because this is new, we have less space.
Alrighty. So
hi, Gurvinder.
Hi, Gurvinder.
He was faster than Nelly.
Gurvinder was faster than Nelly, and Nelly is like a speeding bullet, like Superman, you know.
So hi, Nelly. Good morning. Goedemiddag.
Hi, Nelly. Goedemiddag.
Goedemiddag, Hashim.
Goedemiddag, Hashim. Hello, Nilesh.
Good morning.
And there's a Raj. Good morning.
Good morning, folks.
Folks, good Southern fella from Georgia. And a Hariom. And there is a yoga. Boy, he's
on a roll.
He's on a roll. That's a nice way to say it.
Hello,
Roseanne. Wow, it snows in you both. Yeah, it snows. Matesh, namaste. Namaste. Very proper. Namaste.
Yes.
Put your hands up.
Oh, sorry. But I'm out of view.
Well, here.
You never include me anymore these days.
Namaste.
I had better view when I was in Holland. Well, I at least took up half the screen.
You can go in the office and get on the other computer.
No, but now I also can walk away.
Now you can walk away whenever you want.
Whenever I want.
So, all righty. We're going to...
Hi, Romaine. Welcome. I think you're first here.
Hi, Romaine. Yes. Hi, Romaine.
Cool.
Nice to see you. See, we have on, this thing has Christmas decorations, so we turned it on here. See the border line. What are you doing?
I don't know if I remember what they all are. Oh, this is the cutest. Look, it has even a, what is that? It's some umbrella came down.
An umbrella?
Yeah, see there.
It's a parachute. It's packages being parachuted
and Mr.
down.
Snowman is sleeping.
Santa Claus is sleeping.
He's doing yoga nidra.
He's doing, Santa Claus is doing yoga nidra.
It showers gifts and blessings.
Yes, that's pretty nice. So, anyway. And guess who else is there? Hello.
Hello.
It's Inika.
Goedemiddag. And João?
João.
Inika likes it. Yeah.
Nice.
It is nice, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is cute.
Okay, so we are supposed to be talking about Pratyahara.
So now this can be turned off, I guess.
Do you want to turn it off or leave it on? It's a little hard to...
Yeah, it removes the view, so... I mean, it's cute.
It's cute, but
it's not functional.
Alrighty, how do we turn it off?
On the axis here. Those both there. No more snow. There. And then no more packages.
Okay, but look at that.
That's
Boring.
boring indeed.
But this is our summary page of the Yoga Sutras. And we're down here in Pratyahara. So we've been all the way through chapter 1, which is about what is yoga and abhyasa and vairagya and all that, and types of samadhi and obstacles and solution and om.
So, and the rest of the Yoga Sutras
Stabilizing
series will be
the
done
mind.
in silence because we're doing Pratyahara today.
We're doing Pratyahara, which is the withdrawal of the senses.
So all the other sessions,
So
we'll just turn on the black
so
screen.
from here on out, it's just, we can just turn it on, put the blank wall. I can get out of the way. We can just put the blank wall
And you got
that has the circle chart and the om above it there. See, we can do like that.
Yeah.
And it's just a blank wall, and we can hit the mute button. See?
Instant Pratyahara.
So, but if we're going to do complete Pratyahara, we have to turn off the computer.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, we're going to turn off the computer for Pratyahara and just sit there quietly for a half an hour.
Yes, and get the subtle teachings through the process.
Yeah, something like that. Now, what happened to my thing there?
Which thing?
There it is. Oh, I slid it over so it got buried.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, this is where we are, Pratyahara. Interesting to note here, this is sort of fun. For some number of years, I wondered, notice that Patanjali put the first 5 rungs. Here's where the 8 rungs are introduced, but the first, the yamas and niyams, rung 1 and 2, and then rung 3, then rung 4. Now we're on rung 5 of the 8 rungs, and so
He just ran out of paper.
so Patanjali ran out of paper, and he went to the next page of paper. Of course, remember this was oral at the time, so there wasn't. I think it wasn't written down. Maybe it was written on tree bark. Nobody knows that for sure. But the last 3 of the 8 rungs are in the next chapter.
Can I get you anything to drink?
What?
I made myself a cup of tea, but do you want anything?
No, thank you. And I actually have, it's been years since I've heard this, but I've actually heard people say that, oh, well, Patanjali made a mistake and he should have put those 3 rungs in the same chapter. So all 8 were together. And I've heard people say that with sincerity, like they really felt it was done wrong. But something happened to me with this thing. I never went and asked Swami Rama. I should have, but maybe internally I asked and the answer was given internally. But I thought, well, maybe. I know this is, and I mean this sincerely, but I'm saying it also in the spirit of humor. But I thought maybe this is hard to believe, but possibly Patanjali knew more than me. And I'm saying that just to note, this is the way our silly minds work. We think we're so damn smart. And so I thought maybe there's a reason and I'm just not seeing it.
Raj is saying maybe he said to his students, we are on the hour and it's a good place to stop. We will come back to Dhanana tomorrow.
That's probably what it is, Raj. It could have been that. But there's another observation that we can make here.
Hi, Jean and Eileen.
Hi, Eileen. Oh, Eileen snuck in. Hi, Eileen. And hi, Jean.
Yeah. And now you can tell why that.
Anyway, if you think about it, in some sense, there's a boundary line here on the senses where you and I engage the world. So I, as the totality of me as this person, I am here and Matri is here.
Out of sight.
And no, she's right here, barely in sight. I can turn it there.
There.
And Rojo's over there. But now we all know this. As many of these things, it's very, very practical.
It's 8:15.
I am here. Where are we trying to go to find the center of consciousness? Everybody knows the answer to this.
Here.
It's in here somewhere, wherever we point our fingers, but it's in here. So there's an out there and there's an in here, right? We all know it.
There's a borderline.
And there's a boundary there. There's a borderline, a common boundary, like between two countries or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, the indweller, engage the external world through the indriyas, through the cognitive senses, and what in Western terms is sometimes called the sensory motor mind. Sensory is the sensation, motor is the expression outward. So there's inbound and outbound. This is called the Jnanendriyas. This is called the Karmendriyas. So this is the boundary line between in here and out there. So there's a breaking point there. And once we see it like this, it's like, wow, this really makes sense, Patanjali. Once you see it, and it's so simple that there's a boundary line in there. And note too, that the name of chapter 2 is Sadhana Pada. It's the chapter or the part that's on sadhana, on doing practices. So in a manner of speaking, sadhana ends, this aspect of it ends at this point, because now the rest of the work is done purely, totally, internally. The senses have been withdrawn. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Indeed. And look who snuck in.
Who snuck in? Terry has snuck in. Hi, Terry and Violet. Oops, I got my little slider bar a little wrong. You can't turn these
No.
off. You can't get more space. Our control panel thing that's over here is a little crowded, and there's a delay in the picture showing up there. And anyway.
In a few weeks it will be gone.
Yeah, after Christmas, this will go away, and we will be back to having more room. So I guess what we should do now is take this out.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mom?
Good.
Okay, I took that out, and now we should put this in.
There.
There we go. There is.
Maybe hide Terry's comment.
Goodbye, Terry. We're hiding your comment.
Because she only snuck in. So
you only snuck in, so you only get to stay for a moment. There, see, she just snuck out. She's pretty sneaky, isn't she?
She's eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping. Of course, that may just prompt somebody else to want to try to sneak in. Anyway. Shoot. I'm trying to position this thing, and it doesn't want to position properly. You know how?
Sahil.
Hello,
Nice
Sahil.
to see you.
You know how on a window you have open, you do your mouse over it, and it gives you a little grabber bar. And I'm trying to do the grabber bar to get this thing to fit right. Where did Ma go? Ma tree went away. So Yoga Sutras, this is only 2 sutras. It's Yoga Sutras 54 and 55. Pratyahara is the withdrawal of the senses, the indriyas, of cognition and action from both the external world and the images or impressions in the mind field. So in some manner, though he doesn't say it quite like this, in some manner, there's 2 stages to Pratyahara.
Yeah.
This is a subtle point here that's very, very easy to accidentally overlook. and we'll come down. Remember, the way we lay these things out is that there's an introduction for the section up here, and then we bump into the actual sutra. But the spirit of what I'm saying is that I'm going to turn this back on to us here so I can make this comment. And where now Ma's going to start giving me a hard time because she disappeared out of the frame again. So
No,
this,
you can have it like
no, it's okay. This is what I'm about to say is just one way of attempting to make this point. So to speak, a first stage of Pratyahara is the withdrawal of my senses from out here. So what do we all know to do? We automatically do it if nobody ever even tells us this. We close our eyes. The body becomes still. And so what happens? I'm now withdrawing my senses from out here. I'm no longer using my physical eyeballs. I'm no longer using these apparatus in here to speak. It's one level of the Pratyahara. The point being made here that Patanjali is saying is when we turn inward, then we can start fantasizing inside. And one of the things that, as you know, is extremely common is internally, as soon as we come inward from the world out there, the mind starts jabbering. There's all these thoughts, and some people visualize naturally, and a lot of pictures are drifting around in there. Others don't do much of that, but it's a lot of words going on. We're re-scripting the last conversation that we had with some person. We're doing a daydream in one way or the other, right? So in other words, we are still using our indriyas. But now instead of using them out here through physical organs, we're now doing it internally. And so the actual pratyahara that's being talked about is when we withdraw the indriyas from both the external world and the images coming from the mind field. That's much subtler. So the deeper meditation and the samadhi that we're seeking there, rung 8, is relatively formless. So we have to do complete pratyahara. That's why it's not an easy thing to do. The senses are said to follow the mind in the same way the hive of bees follows the queen bee. Wherever she goes, they will follow. Similarly, if the mind truly goes inward, the senses will come racing behind. And this is rung 5 of the 8 rungs. Say something wise, Mom. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sitting here scrolling, but I'm not showing you. I'm showing you my smiling face, but I'm not showing you that. My bad. Forgive me.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe Moreau again. Anyway, this is what I was. Pratyahara is the withdrawal of the sensitive cognition from both the external world and the images and impressions in the mind field. The senses are said to follow the mind in the same way a hive of bees follows the queen bee. Wherever she goes, they will follow. Similarly, if the mind truly goes inward, the senses will come racing behind. And we all know this principle too. Just think of some time when you're working on some project, or you're reading a book, or you're watching something on your television, and somebody comes in the room to tell you something, and they speak to you, and we say, "Ma," and she doesn't turn to Ma, and she's busy, absorbed in whatever she's doing. You know, like editing videos for the new.
And then if I don't immediately respond, then people get grumpy.
Yeah, and sometimes somebody will get grumpy, and all of a sudden that you say, "Ma!" Like Rojo's over there. So I said, "Rojo," see, nothing. Oh, there she was. She's right there. She wasn't sleeping after all. But anyway, we all know what that's like. We've experienced it. And so it's not pratyahara in one sense because it's not done intentionally. But it is the principle. Notice that it is the principle that I'm so absorbed in this activity, whatever it happens to be, that I tune out all of the other stuff around me. And this is the principle that's being talked about here. Our senses seem to drag us around in the external world, whether pursuing material objects, food, or circumstances related to profession, social, economic life. Just a way of saying it. Through the routine practice of Pratyahara at daily meditation time, we gradually gain positive control, sutra coming, over the mind being obsessively drawn towards all of these objects. This is a further refinement of the minimizing of the gross coloring of the mind field, which was in an earlier section of this chapter, and the third niyama, which is tapas, or training the senses. Now note here again, as we have many times, that these sutras are intertwined with one another. It's one of the reasons that they're called sutras, because sutra is a thread. And one of the ways of talking about the threads is the way a fabric is made. The fabric has a whole bunch of threads going this way and that way. And together they form a cloth or a tapestry or something like that. And so the 196 sutras together all form a fabric. And so they work together. And this is one of the things that's sort of challenging about this, because gradually, this is why we want to internalize these concepts, so that gradually we're able to see how they all work together. And so we can see, for example, when Patanjali says Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Sutra 2, Chapter 1, the definition of yoga, we can see, well, this Pratyahara is not the whole thing, but this Pratyahara business is a part of that Nirodha business. I'm setting aside my cognition in relation to the world out here, and I'm setting it aside in relation to the pictures and words and all that internally.
It's a label for one stage of withdrawal of consciousness from the object.
Yes.
Can you say something about what is the queen bee in this metaphor?
The queen bee, it's just a very ancient, I've forgotten who said it. I think it's Vyasa. Vyasa, who is the number one major famous commentator on the Yoga Sutras. Remember, the principle is sutras are very succinct, very pithy, and so they have to be discussed to understand them. And Vyasa wrote commentary on these sutras, and he describes there something that you can observe in nature, that when a queen bee, a hive, maybe Hashim could tell us more about this, because he grows bees, or is a beekeeper.
He's keeping.
He's a keeper of bees.
He's selflessly
supporting
his group.
He has a bunch of bees. But anyway, the notion is that there's a queen bee, and there's a whole bunch of worker bees, and they're the ones that go out and collect the pollen and bring it back to make the honey and all that kind of stuff.
And they do indeed.
Beekeeping is not my field, so I'm just being a gossip talking
I was more talking what the metaphor stands for. Who the senses are the worker bees, but
those are the indriyas.
Mm-hmm. And so the queen bee then.
I just said it here. It's just here.
Is the mind.
If the mind truly goes inward, the senses will come racing behind. And I tried to mention this example that says we already know this, because if we get absorbed in something, then our senses turn away from the others. So person's busy doing something, you call out their name, they don't even hear you. Mm-hmm. They've just tuned you out. Why? Because they are focused on what they're doing. You're sitting there working on your computer, editing videos for the next course.
Yeah. What am I still doing here, huh?
What are you still doing here? And so, Ma, what do you want for lunch? Want a cup of tea? And so we all know this principle. So how is it that we do that? We become absorbed in something. And that's the principle that's being said here. When you become absorbed in one-pointedness, then the senses sort of switch off from all the other activity. Now, there's a real neat little trick here. The last session we did on Yoga Sutras was about pranayama. And I don't want to go back through that whole thing again, but remember it's outlined that there are 4 pranayamas, 4 aspects. There's inhalation, there's exhalation, and there's the transition between the two. That's 1, 2, 3. The 4th pranayama is where we dive deep and we are aware of the life force of prana itself. Then Patanjali explains in that last section about pranayama that when you do that, the mind actually becomes prepared for dharana or concentration. Well, beautifully, that is rung number 6. So the point of that is that if you succeed in doing rung 4 and and Sushumna is awakened and you have a really calm, quiet, conscious mind, notice what happens. It's very easy for the mind to be concentrated. And then when the mind is concentrated, that act of concentration essentially is the queen bee. And then the indriyas, the senses, come racing behind. So the previous sutras on pranayama set the stage for what we're looking at here. And how do you get the senses to withdraw? The mind is one-pointed and the senses will come racing behind. How do I get my mind to be one-pointed? Notice that there's a sequence. This is why we keep over time talking about this as a systematic process. And very commonly, if a person says, I've been meditating for 10 years and this monkey mind, this noisy mind is still driving me crazy. Now, I say this with compassion and love. It's a very difficult thing from my end to hear a person say that, because if your starting point is, I've been meditating for 10 years, there's a good possibility that some of the preliminaries have been overlooked. The thing that's hard about this is when you say to another person, do you think maybe you skipped some of the preliminaries in the last 10 years? It can,
ow on the ego.
Yeah, what?
Ow on the ego.
Ow on the ego. So, and it's natural. It's just natural. This is the kleshas. Avidya, asmita, raga, devesha, abnivesha. The 5th one is fear of death, fear of the loss of my identity. So I built up a whole constellation of me. I think I'm a yogi. I've been to retreats. I've been to India. I've been to the Himalayas. I have tradition. I have everything. I'm pretty cool. So all of a sudden now I'm going to say I'm having problems, and here's somebody saying maybe I skipped something. It's not easy to hear. But very often what has happened is we have skipped over the pranayama section. And we say, oh, I'm doing my breathing. I'm doing breath of fire that I learned in a Dirk Swasam. No, it's called Agni Prasana, I think. The breath of fire is very popular. People do a lot of workshops on this where you're very, very fast, vigorous, heavy breathing. And so we can do those practices, but we never quite figure out how to awaken or open Sushumna and get the breath to be smooth and calm and serene so that we can experience what Patanjali calls the 4th pranayama. And if we can experience that, then the mind, as Patanjali says, is naturally prepared to do the concentration that is in rung number 6. And again, I know I'm repetitive, but I'm trying to make the point clear. Then what happens to rung number 5, Pratyahara? It's the Vyasa commentary that says, well, it's like the queen bee and the worker bees. That when you're concentrated, the senses come racing behind. They sort of switch off. And that's why I use the metaphor that says, look, we all already know this because we know what it's like to be absorbed in some activity, and then we tune out everything else around us. If you're in a house and you're doing one thing and there's some people in the adjacent room or maybe even the same room, and they have music going on their stereo and there's televisions going and there's all this noise, and sometimes that noise is very disturbing to what you're doing, and you say, would you please be quiet? I'm working on something. And somehow at other times you're just so deeply absorbed that you just tune it out. You just tune it out. And
It's effortless.
it's effortless, and this is what all of this should be. So if we do the pranayama well and we discover the inner sense of this fourth pranayama and Sushumna is awakened, then the concentration, rung 6, 2 rungs later, becomes very easy. And paradoxically, when we do that, then rung 5 happens. It just comes racing behind. So note that there is not a specific like set of techniques of how you go about doing pratyahara. It rests on the foundation of understanding that if I have done good. If I done good with my pranayama and have Sushumna awakened, then the attention will come inside, and there's concentration. That's the principles. Through the routine practice of pratyahara at daily meditation time, we gradually gain control over the mind by being obsessively drawn towards those objects. This is a further refinement of minimizing the coloring of the mind field, which we talked about, and the third niyama, which is tapas, training the senses. So as we're going through this, it's not always as easy as it sounds, and there's some frustration that happens with it. And riding through that storm, that emotional storm of the noise of the mind quieting down, is tapas, and it emotionally burns like a fire. That's why tapas. And here, this is what we were already saying. Sense withdrawal pratyahara rests on the solid foundation of a steady, comfortable meditation posture. And that's the other thing that can happen when we are doing remedial learning. Say, why am I still not experiencing deep meditation? Well, maybe I overlooked the breath part. Maybe I overlooked the posture part. I may be a certified hatha yoga teacher and extremely skilled in very difficult postures, asanas. But does that mean that I am able to just sit still? Remember the principle Patanjali says, it should be steady and comfortable. Video keeps dropping out.
Jal says video and sound are perfect.
Jal says, for us, video sound are perfect. Uh-huh. Well, I don't know what that is. What I'm wondering, Joe, is I remember before when you and I were trying to do video together, there was something about I've forgotten the name of it. You have a certain kind of internet connection that is sort of slow, if I remember correctly. And so I'm just guessing. Maybe that's what's going on. Anyway. So there we go. You need to get some faster internet somehow, sometime. Meditation, posture, regulation of prana, and withdrawal of the senses collectively set the stage for the higher practices of concentration, meditation, and samadhi, which are together called samyama. And then we use that samyama to do the real, deeper, subtler introspection. There's another mind is fine. That's what you mentioned. This is just a comment here. The willingness or unwillingness. I know this is strong language, but unfortunately, there is some validity to it. The willingness or unwillingness to withdraw attention from sensory experience is a significant dividing line between those who experience true meditation and those who experience only physical relaxation. It's very common in our modern world. There's a lot of meditation courses being taught to people and systems or approaches to meditation that is basically simply about getting a degree of relaxation. And so you lay down and here's the music playing and there's some guided imagery and a voice is saying to you something like, Imagine that you are walking down the beach and the sun is nice and the sky is blue and you can smell the salt spray and the guided imagery like that. And it's very easy, very common to refer to this as meditation. Well, I'm not trying to force the grammar to change. That's okay. Let people call it meditation if they want. But when we look at what the yogis are saying, and we have a specific terminology, the terminology is not important, but if we don't know it, then we can misperceive it. Dhyana, rung 7 is dhyana. That's the one that is typically translated as meditation. Note that dhyana, that even dharana, but dhyana clearly comes after pratyahara. Now listen to this. I'm not trying to be obnoxious and hateful in saying what I'm about to say. I'm not meaning it that way, truly. But if you're still doing a guided visualization and you're seeing the beach and you're seeing the ocean and you're seeing the blue sky and you're doing all of that, guess what? You are still using the indriyas. And then if you have been doing that kind of so-called meditation for 10 years, or I'm just pulling a number out of the air, if you've been doing that a long time, and then you say, I keep reading the books and I hear about this samadhi business, but I never seem to make any progress. What's the problem? Well, it may be that we have completely skipped over the notion of pratyahara. The mere fact that we are still seeing the visualized fantasy that we're creating, it can have a very relaxing effect. But relaxing is not the same as dhyana or meditation. That's the spirit of this. Okay, Ma?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you got it. Am I saying it clearly?
Yes, sir.
You can add something.
I was just going back because of my first encountering with yoga meditation. Indeed, we only did that.
Only did what?
Guided
Imagery or
imaging,
visualization?
visualizations. And I was just thinking, in a way, it does partially pratyahara, because at least you are not in the room, you are not taking.
Yeah, it takes you away from out here.
So it does something, like you say, with the queen bee. Then the imagery becomes the queen bee, but it's not fathoming the depth of the unconscious going towards the self.
Well, not only that, it's not, the pratyahara has not occurred.
No, but it's the same as watching television, basically. But then you put a television in your mind.
Yeah, but that relates to the external distractions.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I was not trying to say what you said was wrong. I was just going back and said it does something for the people.
I was just
wondering, what does it do? It removes the attention.
This is why thank you for saying this, though, because it serves to remind. This is why it's difficult to have a conversation with. This is why I use the example set. If somebody's been saying, I've been meditating for 10 years, but it's difficult to try to suggest that maybe you skipped over something.
Yeah.
Because it automatically is, no, I've been doing this. No, I'm doing meditation. But for the subtleties, to actually do dhyana comes after pratyahara.
Yes.
And our totality of me, the antakarana, the totality of me, does not want to hear that.
No.
Why? Because we are totally addicted to our senses.
Yeah. And for example, I was not introduced to the whole concept of Sushumna awakening at that time.
Yeah.
At all. And so even if it
certainly not the fourth pranayama of Patanjali.
And so if the guided imagery would fall away because you go into a deeper, subtler something, then you would even probably think you're doing something wrong because you lose the imagery.
I'm forgetting the imagery.
I'm not,
I'm failing because I'm forgetting the imagery.
And
what you may actually be doing is going deeper.
Yes.
You may actually be doing the pratyahara.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But instead it's corrected because as a mistake.
Yeah.
Oops. I'm just not very good at this. I keep forgetting the
It
guided image.
stabilizes the mind. Can we say that? Because
It
pick
stabilizes
anything
the
you
mind.
want to,
Chapter 1, stabilizing the mind.
Yeah.
Sutras 33 to 39, 39 in particular. Concentrate the mind.
On it.
This is what helps deal with the obstacles. And Sutra 39, chapter 1 says, or focus on whatever you find pleasing.
Yeah.
So it has the effect of stabilizing the mind. But it's preparation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's difficult about this, because what we're talking about here is not a criticism, really, of doing guided visualizations or images. They can be very useful.
For a lot of people, they help stabilize the mind, like people with PTSD.
Now, Joe's a little bit
relaxation,
strong about this. Joe says guided meditation is rubbish. I only use guidance during meditation for people beginning. No music either. Just cannot work. In this, yes, that's strongly stated, what Joel said, but there's something to it.
Mm-hmm.
An example for myself with that, I would strongly hold that opinion for years, because I was struggling through doing this, and these guided things were a problem. But then I came to realize that at our own ashram, our own institution that Swami Rama started, I was doing biofeedback measuring on a lot of people. I saw the biofeedback results, the stress profiles of a lot of the teaching faculty there. And I came to see that a lot of them were not doing this stuff. They were not doing the yoga nidra practices. And I would add the moving through the body systematically. And I would see it on the screen of the computer. I could see that. And I would say just casually, are you still doing the 61 point exercise? And the person would say, well, no, not really. I used to do that a couple of years ago, but I kind of quit doing that. And I was seeing the effect in their physiology. And so I was feeling personally what you just said, Joe, that no, don't do guided practices. But then along the way, in the spirit of compassion, I realized that it's very, very difficult to train yourself to find these. I can remember in the 61 points exercise, I can remember I had a book, and I'd lay on my back and I'd have it open to this little image of a body with numbers on it. And the book would go on my chest. I'd go find a few of the points. Then I'd get lost, and I'd look back at the book and I'd say, okay, I got that next point. And I worked with that. I struggled with it. It was very hard for me to memorize where these stupid 61 points were. And then in a spirit of compassion, I said, look, to note to self, I'm having great trouble with this, and so everybody else is too. Let me be a little more compassionate towards people. And this is what led me toward making and publishing the Yoga Nidra CD that I put out, realizing that for a certain point along the way, the guided practices are beneficial. And so then remember to let go of them and move on anyway. So, oops, we lost. Where were we there? Where was Joe? Joe was down there. More down, I think. More down.
Oh, there we were. Terry is saying something to me. Sensory experience seems like a life jacket, and we just want to cling on.
Yes. Well said, Terry. Sensory experience seems like a life jacket. We are so accustomed. You're saying it in a sweeter way than what I was trying to say when we are addicted to our senses. Your way of saying it is very sweet.
But we have to go out without the life jacket to experience
Yes, that's right.
The real self.
Very well said, I think. Yes. Jiao, guided imagery. I had that for years, and it served probably well, as if it was truly meditation. But when you look back at it, though, you can look back at it and say, but wait a minute, it was preparation. So it's okay. It was preparation for what I learned later. So there's nothing wrong with it. Matesh says meditation has become more popular than Yoga Sutra, which contains meditation. Meditation has become more popular Well, something has become more popular. I don't know whether we can call it meditation. I think that's the conversation we're having right now. And so something has become popular. What has become popular is relaxation.
Yeah.
And then relaxation gets equated as being meditation. And this is one of the awkward things about language. It's easy to say, I don't want to learn Sanskrit terms. I speak English. I don't want to waste my time learning Sanskrit terms. Well, the problem with that is then we're all using the word meditation, but we're talking about something entirely different. In some of Swami Rama's talks, if you watch the videos, he explains this thing, and he's talked specifically about the word relaxation. And he says, what you people are doing, you think it's meditation. You're not doing meditation. What you're doing is relaxation. I know where one of them is. There's a single lecture he does called How to Tread the Path of Superconscious Meditation. It's an hour and a half long. It's on the YouTube channel. Maybe it will remind me, and I'll post it in the comments of this after.
It's the
later.
seventh step.
Huh? Yeah, he says meditation is the seventh step. You are not prepared for meditation, yet you pose for meditation or something like that. I'm just not trying to, make it authoritative by quoting him, but just to say that this is a very common thing. And the thing is, I'm still looking at what Mitesh is saying, that often is relaxation. There's nothing wrong with relaxation practices.
It's a prelude.
Many, many people in our world really need relaxation exercises. But when it gets labeled meditation, for those people needing stress management reduction, for them, it doesn't matter whether you call it meditation or relaxation. But out of 100 people who do that, a few years later, one or two of them is probably going to be interested in the depths of yoga, of deeper meditation. And because they've been taught that this relaxation practice is called meditation, it's very hard to see this. Some of us, probably in this conversation, there's quite a few of us together, probably some of what we're talking about right now is ringing true for you. You're saying, wow, yeah, I went through this. I went through this. And so this is the problem. I'm saying there's a problem with language. And if we use the word dhyana, if we use our intelligent minds to listen to what Patanjali is saying and maybe listen to what this guy's trying to help you understand what Patanjali is saying, we can make the simple observation that if the indriyas, if the cognitive senses have not yet switched off, then I am definitely not doing dhyana. And so I'm obviously not doing samadhi. So something's off here. I'm trying to refrain from using the word wrong, because that can sound like a moralistic judgment of bad. You're wrong, you're bad. And I don't mean it that kind of way. It's not meant that way. Roseanne says, I have been dealing with internal images that tries to interrupt the flow of systematic meditation. And then it's got SJ. I guess that means you're talking to me.
Yeah, you are SJ.
Yeah, I know.
Among us,
but she didn't sign it RO as in
no, she's
Roseanne.
just talking to you.
She's talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been dealing with internal images that try to interrupt the flow of systematic meditation. Well, Roseanne, now I don't know exactly what's going on with you, but here's some food for your thought in the spirit of what we're trying to.
I'm just putting up some imagery.
Okay, there's some imagery. There's in honor of Roseanne. There's parachutes flying around, and there's a sleeping Santa Claus and all this. These are the images coming around there, Roseanne. When we say I have been dealing with internal images, it sounds like this means, okay, now I'm sitting here and for my meditation, these internal images are coming and I'm dealing with them. And very often that means what I'm trying to do is push them away. Get out of here, you image. Get out. There's another Santa Claus parachute coming. Oh, here, how do I get rid of these things? And this is the point, I think. Plug this in and play with it, Roseanne, see if this ends up making sense for you. Probably, now hear this is why it's delicate, it's difficult to talk about. Probably something has been skipped. I'm not meaning that negative, and I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to play some head game with you in saying that. But there's a good chance that something has been skipped in the preliminaries. You know, why is it not that I'm perfectly concentrated internally and occasionally thoughts drift through, but they have no effect on me? They just come and go and come and go. Why is that not what you said? What you said is, I've been dealing with internal images that try to interrupt the flow of systematic meditation.
She's
Well,
responding to you.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, makes sense.
Okay, so when you explore, let me finish my comment here, say a little bit more. When you explore what might have I skipped, go back one step and say, okay, well, has Pratyahara occurred? And based even on the comment you made, obviously Pratyahara has not occurred because those images are still coming. There, where did it go?
Yeah, put it back up.
Yeah, you put it there. Yeah, but no, there. And so obviously Pratyahara has not occurred. Well, okay, what do I do about Pratyahara? What was just before that? Well, just before that was the fourth pranayama in rung number 4. So let me look at that. When these images are coming, trying to interrupt, is my sushumna awakened? Are my 2 nostrils flowing freely? Is my breath smooth with no jerks and no pauses? And there's a good chance that if your breath is smooth and no jerks and no pauses, then those images are not interrupting. So good chance something's off there. You can go back one step further and say, is my posture actually really comfortable? Or am I still a stage where I'm forcing myself to sit straight? It doesn't feel good. My neck hurts and I have a headache and my back hurts, but I'm going to sit straight because I'm doing systematic meditation. I'm just playing a game here, Roseanne, trying to say this is what you do. Ponder, look at yourself and go back a little bit at a time, and you'll discover for yourself, ooh, this is where something went off. So it might be the posture. And you may say, well, so my posture is not steady. It's not comfortable. What do I need to do about that? Maybe I've been working too hard trying to force myself into a posture. In one of Swami Rama's lectures, he speaks of a point where he was talking to his master and he was complaining about his meditation. I've been doing all this stuff, and all that happens is I get a headache. So even he's saying, and all I was doing at that time, all I was doing was getting a headache. Something was overlooked. So you go back and you look at posture. Then you listen to your internal dialogue. Okay, well, what do I need to do? Maybe something will pop into your mind. There is wisdom inside. Maybe something will pop into your mind, says, well, your body is not flexible. And, being really honest, I'm not getting enough exercise. I'm not getting physical exercise. Maybe I'm doing some yoga postures, but maybe I'm not even doing that the way that I know I ought to be doing it. And maybe I'm not getting any physical exercise. I'm not walking outside. I'm not riding a bicycle. I'm not going to the gym or whatever that is. We joined a gym a few months ago. And so you just keep going backwards. Or it may be that something pops into your mind and says, I'm feeling uncomfortable in my life out here because there's chaos going on. There's problems in my family and in my country and my community. There's problems, and I'm feeling really disturbed and distracted by this. So maybe there's something you discover in the yamas and the niyamas that, oh, this is a part of what's off with me. And I know you're hearing what I'm saying. Sometimes more intense. Sometimes I can watch them come and go. Yes. But still, the fact that you describe that it's happening, that the internal images are trying to interrupt the flow, it's still saying that the pratyahara has not occurred. And so sometimes more intense, sometimes I can watch them come and go. That's a good thing to practice watching them come and go. But still, there's a good chance that if you're in that mode, that something has been left behind. So just sort of rewind, hit the rewind button and look back at the previous rungs and ponder on it and do internal dialogue, and you'll see it. Huh?
Are there more messaging?
I'm sorry, what are you telling me?
I was thinking we should remove soon the.
Well, I didn't put it on. You put it on.
It's fun.
The body scan is very important, but it's a prelude. Yes. I don't know what this yes was about, but yes, good.
Oh, and that he moved from which imagery to meditation. Yes, I always had desire to do it.
So now things are moving kind of in a nice direction. Yes, relaxation is what it is and not meditation. Thanks. Yes. Still useful. That's the thing. By understanding this, it's not being negative.
That was for the Santos.
Huh?
That was when I put up the Santa Claus.
That was the Santa Claus. Ha, ha, ha. Yes. All righty. Okay. Well, we got a big one here. I talk people through the preludes, asana, body scan, mantra, and how to align breath, and let them know what we will be doing during meditation. Experienced meditators only need a reminder, but I still outline the 61 points before we start. It depends on the group and what they and what their experience is. Yes, absolutely. Well said, Joe. In past, I did some guided meditations, which will invoke Sushumna through guided meditation instructions. Can that be treated as different than guided meditation we are talking about? If you know, Nilesh, if you know what you're saying, what you do, what you're saying it, then and this is what's awkward about this, because there's nothing that I am saying that's trying to say no, don't do guided imagery. I'm saying that there's nothing wrong with it, and it can be very beneficial. But when you understand, as you're saying that you do, the principle that before the depth of meditation comes, there needs to be pratyahara. If you are aware of that, then you're going to do that guided imagery. There's nothing wrong with listening to music. Listening to music can be very, very relaxing. It can be a wonderful thing to do, but do it as part of your preparation for your meditation session. Don't just listen to music. Don't just listen to the guided imagery and say, this is my meditation. But you already know that because you're hearing what we're talking about. And so then do the guided imagery. And if it's a recording, do it for a few minutes or however long you want, then turn it off. If you're doing guided imagery inside, do the guided imagery inside and then abandon it. And then, for example, then come to your breath and just feel the air coming and going smoothly. Sushumna awakens, and the senses, the cognitive senses, do not kick back in. The imageries don't come back in. You're not fighting them. You're not pushing them away. It's just a natural part of the process. I love this advice to go backwards through the steps. Thank you. You're welcome. I truly meditate for seconds, almost a glimpse. Sometimes it lasts a bit longer, and after that I feel the results for a longer time. I have achieved longer meditations. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So those few seconds are absolutely fabulous. The only thing I would add to that is place your value on the few seconds, and don't sit there and don't accidentally fall in the trap of saying, but for 20 minutes my mind was wandering. If there was 5 seconds where it was all there, then allow yourself to say, wow, I had 5 seconds of tremendous meditation. And that's a way of training your own unconscious mind. It's like saying to a puppy dog, good puppy dog, good puppy dog. And the puppy dog or the child gradually learns what's good behavior and what's not. And so, good. Words come as an arrow in the right moment. Wonderful. That's why we get together and do this, as you well know. That's what we're attempting to do. And so our time is there. Let's quickly take a look at that. There's the sutra. When the mental organs cease to be engaged with the corresponding objects in their mental realm and assimilate or turn back into the mind field, that is called Pratyahara and is the fifth. Note here, if you're curious to go look at the Sanskrit here, not that I'm a Sanskrit scholar, but it's there. There's the word objects and not coming into contact with the objects of the mind field. Then the mental organs, the indriyas, withdraw is the Pratyahara. Sense withdrawal is a mental function. Just a reminder, we basically already talked about that. Remember that the withdrawal of the senses is not just, I've seen people early phase, put earplugs in their ears and will put one of those sleeping mask things over the eyes. And so to try to do Pratyahara, I do Pratyahara with these things, someone will say. But it's a mental function. So it's important to realize that. The indriyas are senses and actions. Remember, it's jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. So it's my emotions and my activity and my speech, not just my cognition. And once again, I'm sitting here talking about these papers, but I'm not showing it to you. Here's a little image that is a terrible graphic, but it's an attempt to make something. Consciousness looks out through individuality, then it looks out through intelligence, then through a mind, then it uses the indriyas to find either, see, there's an eyeball. The concept here is good, as Maitreyi's gone away right now, but one of these days she'll make it a really nice picture. But so these are like instruments, like lenses. And so consciousness, the self, is looking out through individuality, intelligence, mind, and indriyas. And then it can either work outward through the physical eyeball and ears and all that to the physical objects of the world, or it can look at like the movie screen of the mental objects. And whichever it is, we need them both to come in. Clinging to the sense of self. We can have this. We are pretty much addicted. We love to, if you say, I like music, in some sense, what are we saying? I love sound. I love sound. I came to realize many years ago when I used to fly airplanes, it's the thing that taught me one lesson, that one of the things that I just was totally addicted to is motion. I like motion. Somebody in here likes moving around. So, and I discovered this because of the thrill that there was in taking off on a runway with an airplane. The feeling of putting the power into the engine and the plane speeding up, and then all of a sudden the airplane lifts up off the ground and you're flying. And you honk back on the stick, and the plane goes shooting up in the air. And what a sensation. That's when I discovered this. And so driving a car, it has motion. I'm just telling you a thing here that says that this is how this works. We can be actually clinging to sensation itself. And it's still true for me as a person. I just get a real kick out of motion. There's a neighbor of ours, a couple houses down from where the ashram is, who is a motorcycle guy. He must have 10 motorcycles in his garage. and this little short road that we are on, he will take a motorcycle out and get on the road and go zoom and, you know, pull the front wheel up, and he's going down the road right in front of the ashram on one wheel. Or sometimes he has a little bitty motorcycle that's almost smaller than he is, that he can't fit on. And it lean, you know, and he'll go down to the other end of the road, turn around and come back. And he just loves riding those motorcycles. Now, I've never been a motorcycle person, but when I see him ride by on these motorcycles playing like that, I can feel the part of my enjoyment of the karmendriya of motion that would love to get on there and do the same thing. I can identify with it. I'm not going to do it. You know, it's not my thing, but I can feel that attraction. And so the fixation or addiction to sensation itself is one of the largest single reasons so few people experience self-realization. We just do not want to let go of our senses. Yes. Thank you, Ro. And so I'm just trying to scroll down here and see what else. And so that's the end of this. This is the last picture that I have in this section. Again, the graphics are not very good, you know, but, you know, let's see, there's smell. See, there's a little bitty nose.
Huh.
And it's smelling.
That's a tongue.
And there's a tongue. It's not a very good tongue. But,
oh, Sammy, this is the first one I should do. No.
And there's an eyeball. Yeah. And there's a hand for touch. And there's a very crudely crafted ear. The self, the Atman, is back here. Consciousness is back here. However you conceptualize that consciousness. That consciousness operates outward through these senses to the objects of either the inner or the outer worlds. Pratyahara. Pratyahara. It's pretty short in here, but I thought about maybe going on, but no, I wanted to make sure we spent some time with this. It's very important. And just keep remembering the principles that when you succeed in the fourth pranayama, you're prepared for rung 6. And then the queen bee, then the pratyahara, the senses come racing behind. Now, but then remember that as we do this, as we become more familiar with it and we play with it, we become more and more skilled at very easily, naturally switching off the indriyas. It gets easier and easier and easier. Okay? So, alrighty, time to take a break. We'll come back in about 15 minutes. Kind of went over a little as usual. And we thought that I have to put up the thing for this, the link will go up as soon as we're done here, I'll go put it up. But we were thinking about Matri, thought it would be good if we went through the Kundalini Awakening series again. It'll take us a couple sessions to go through it. So we'll do that again in an hour or just less than an hour. It's kind of cold, but maybe we'll wrap up and take a nice walk outside.
The sun is shining.
The sun is shining. Very nice day here. So, all righty. We should wave goodbye, Mom. Whoops, let's turn that off. Goodbye, Roseanne. We turned Roseanne off. Yeah, okay. Put some snow and Christmas cheer. Oh, thank you all for playing.
Bye. I can't do that without leaning.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Tat Sat. Remember, it's over there off the edge of the picture. In the silence see if I turn it so you can see it, then you lose Matri.
That's okay.
And then
that's more
there it is. See, there it is. Om Tat Sat. There it is. There, I'll put Matri back under the snow. There you go. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. See you later. And I'm pushing the button, Roseanne. I pushed the first button. Now I have to push the second button.
Dooey dooey.
Dooey dooey. 3, 2, 1.